Hello, Tom LaVecchia here with the latest edition of the New Theory podcast. Today, I have a lot of questions for her. We have a very special guest, Julieanne Cantarella, dating coach and relationship expert, hails out of our home state, New Jersey. Julieanne, welcome to the New Theory podcast. How are you doing today?
I am well, thank you. How are you?
Happy to be here. I am well. So let me start off with, I think the newer generation seems to be more open-minded, right? And you hear many people saying, hey, I have a therapist. Obviously, if you get divorced, you have a lawyer, you have your friends, you have your family. I always hate it when like a guy gets into a big fight with his wife. Who does he call? His divorced guy friend, because, he's available and then he gets advice from that person. And that's probably not the person to get advice from. But with that being said, I value the idea and the practice of having a relationship coach. So my first question to you is, why don't more people have relationship coaches?
Oh, that's such a great question. I have to tell you, where do I start? I think it's because we're trained to believe that you should just be able to have relationships. Like nothing about it's taught in school. We never even discuss it in school.
Correct.
And like we're supposed to inherently know how to relate to one another. So if you don't, then there's something inherently wrong with you. So no one wants to think that there's something wrong with you themselves. I have to tell you something so funny. So I do a little matchmaking. I started out, I'm stepping away from it, but I'm representing a new fella. And I have a Rolodex of women, right? So women come to me, they enter my Rolodex. Some of these women have been in my Rolodex for like 5 years. Yikes. So I send out this email, right? And they just keep coming in. The responses keep rolling in. Now, wouldn't you know, like at least half of these women have reached out to me for coaching. Then they're like, oh no, I don't think I really want to do that. So, and they get like, I just think to myself, if you engaged in the coaching, you wouldn't be single right now.
You wouldn't be on the Rolodex.
You wouldn't be desperately emailing me all these photos. You wouldn't desperately be emailing me all this information to have a date with someone you know nothing about. But they're like, oh, he's working with someone who wants to match him. He's got it. Let me tell you something. There are so many great men online. And I use online dating as a tool. I have a very unique and boutique date coaching program that you won't find anywhere else. It's what I do. It's called From First Date to Soulmate. And what I do is, and what I do.
And it's trademarked. Congratulations.
It is trademarked.
Well, I can't wait to get fully registered. We'll celebrate. But either way, that should work. I like it.
Yeah, thank you. I actually launched it back in 2009. So when I've been in business for 16 years, and in 2009, I looked around, I did my due diligence, and I saw what other coaches were doing. And there is great work out there that coaches are doing. Yeah. But what I was seeing is people were learning skills and tools to apply to relationships, but they'd walk away and they wouldn't be able to put it into play, right? Wow. So they'd go, okay, now I have all this information, what do I do? So what I did is I said, how can I get my clients out and dating and I can coach them in real time? So that's when I started using online dating, and I did my due diligence. I'm an online dating expert. I know how to market my clients.
Smart.
And so I know people go, market. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, you have to market yourself if you really want to call in a great quality partner. You can't just throw up anything. Right? Correct. You can't just throw up.
The copy has to be written a certain way. This certain lead-in photo should be X. The second photo should be Y. No, there's a whole science to it.
Yes, there is. And I've studied it. And so I actually have 3 photographers who work for me. All my clients get a photo shoot.
Love it.
It's 2.5 hours long. There are 4 wardrobe changes. I have an outline of the wardrobe that the client should use. And I did a full study in body language. So although my photographers are professionals, this is absolutely what they do for a living, basically what I do is I come and I look in the back of the camera.
Smart.
I make sure the expression is right, the body
Love it.
language is right, and we get what we need for online. And then I used to write all the profiles. I don't have the time anymore.
Yeah.
And I have a professional profile writer, and she
Amazing.
writes the profile. But this is where things get interesting. I do an assessment of each client. So I'm not sure if we said, but I'm also a former therapist.
Oh, wow. Fantastic.
Yes.
Comes into play.
So yeah, it does. So when I do an assessment of each client, and I determine that not only what try to uncover any self-limiting beliefs, any negative patterns of behavior,
Yeah.
but I also use that tool to determine the sites where I would put them.
Oh, wow. So I guess that makes sense. And I'm also guessing demographically there's, and I'm happily fiancéed right now, but this speaks to me where I was single for a while, and these apps are not created equal, but we'll get to that in a moment. And the dating dynamic is much different than when I was last single back in 2000 whatever. With that being low 2000s, with that being said, though, is I'm guessing it's almost the antithesis. We should reach out to you when we're single to help find somebody so we can hopefully engage the right person earlier on. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of people think, and it's so funny, so many people think that matchmaking is the answer. I'm going to go to a matchmaker. And mind you,
Yeah.
I've been in the industry for 16 years.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to go to a matchmaker. I'm going to pay them money, and they're going to find me someone perfect.
Yeah.
It's like this fantasy of this situation. And
well, some of those retainers are big, like Patty staying on it. Like you're talking in the 5 figures just for a few dates. And like, I don't think they guarantee success of some of these bigger agencies either, for the money, you're spending.
So you want to know why? Because what's happening is if someone hasn't done the work or cleared the cache, let's say, or all the crap that they're carrying along,
I love
is
that.
I could present them with their most perfect partner. But if
Correct.
they're not emotionally ready, or they haven't done the work, or they
That's a
haven't
great
gotten
point.
past those, well, it's because I've seen it for 16 years.
Yeah.
That's why I really do coaching. That's why and my success rate is much higher than trying to, and I'm being very transparent. It's much higher than the matchmaking, because again, people have this fantasy of, I'm going to pay you, I'm going to cobble some perfect person together. That's just not how that works.
So okay, so so should retain you when you're single, right? See, take an inventory, if you will, get you prepped, if you will. There is a whole science to it. With that being said, though, is dating dynamics, right? So I'm just gonna use me for an example. I'm 45 years old. Let's say I'm a newly single guy, been out of the game for a while. I go on Bumble, I get my date, right? Some of the weird dynamics that guys like me face is, the old school way is, hey, I would, pick you up, right? Or you try to be modern. You're like, hey, I'll send you an Uber, because I know, like, but then you're getting there, like, so, like, what do you like? How do you navigate? Because like,
It's a great question.
You want to be true to like kind of your moral compass, if you will, and do things nicely, but then you don't want to be a creep either,
Yeah. So this is where communication comes in. I see it all the time.
Yeah.
This is when things fall apart. If you're your genuine and authentic self, and say you want to say to a woman, I'd love to, send you an Uber, but I know that entails my taking your address, and that might that make you feel uncomfortable?
Yeah.
Be honest. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with being honest. And I think that's where things go awry. But also what I see is men don't realize that women are single, they're online. They do have some trepidation and anxiety about giving a man their number, or having someone come to their home. As a coach, I tell women, no one's coming to your home for at least a month of dating, if not more. You really have to. Oh yeah, absolutely. You want to know why? Because there's another reason.
No.
I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Because there's so many reasons, but I also want my clients and I tell them date more than one guy at a time.
Oh, okay. All
And
right.
it's not being disingenuous. It's
Yeah.
not being playing games. It's you're on a mission. And what you're doing is trying
Yeah.
to find a long-term partner. And if you jump into the first relationship that comes along, you run the chance of missing all the red flags or baggage or anything else that could be possibly be there. You're
All
going to
right.
ask something. I'm sorry.
All right. So you, okay. So you go on the first date, you're dating, and it is a first month, right? And trust me, people nowadays have no problem dating multiple people, so that's not a challenge. But what should the level of transparency be to each person? Do you hey, listen, we're not together, I don't have a right to tell you, or opposite, should you be transparent on the risk of maybe turning them off a bit?
No, I always say it's no one's business. So you
Okay.
don't have to, on a first date, that's like, there's no reason to tell someone you're dating other people.
Okay.
If you start dating regularly, like you start liking each other and then you start dating regularly, then I would say, you want to start to have that conversation. But that's not until it looks like there's regularity, like 2 times a week, 3 times a week, and you're moving towards exclusivity. And let me tell you something.
Yeah.
You had said people don't have a problem dating a lot of people at one time. I will tell you, the people who I work with typically do have a problem dating more than one person at a time. They typically jump into the first relationship that comes along.
Okay, so now I have to ask.
Sure.
An adult-centered question. Okay,
Ask anything.
So what if you're a single guy and I'm just gonna go through iterations, right? You hit the Rolodex first. And I love that you said Rolodex because I use that to a bunch of millennials and it looked like I had 10 heads. Like, what's that?
I know.
So I was like, anyway, phone book, and then it looked at even weirder. But anyway, so you're in your 40s, guy or gal. And I'm guessing the first iteration is hit the X's, right? It's just easier, low hanging fruit. You've been there, right? And you're dating a few people, and you just happen to be comfortable enough sleeping with said people, right? Since you kind of cross that lane, should you be transparent because you're intimate, or again, still, hey, if you're jumping in the pool, that's your problem. I want to understand that dynamic too, because I am so like old in this sense. I have no clue how that comes about.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Okay. So I want to get a better understanding of your question.
Yeah, no. So you're dating a few people. It's
right.
You're it's still early on.
Are you a guy or a girl?
You're a guy, let's say.
Okay.
So and you're between first date and like, hey, let's have the talk. You're in the middle. And then again, you hit like the X to satisfy that need, right? I'm just being transparent, right? The physical need.
Wait a second. I need to understand. So you're dating someone new.
You're dating somebody new, and there's some like you're sleeping with a few different people. It's meaningless emotionally, but you're still looking for love. And you're not exclusive point yet, but you're on the third date, and then you start to maybe. And I'm just again, I'm not judging anybody, but maybe they start sleeping together before the exclusivity point. So you have multiple partners. Should you be transparent, or should you keep that under your cap?
So of course you should be transparent.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So I predominantly work with women.
Yeah.
So just so you know that I do work with some men.
Yeah. Yeah.
But predominantly with women. And so I tell them no sex until there's exclusivity.
Wow. Okay. Good. I like that. I like that. All right.
So do I.
What about if let's go on the female side of things. Because one of the misnomers, if you will, or myths is that women cheat less than men. Versus statistically, it's similar, right? And I think as you get older, I think it slants towards women, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not judging. I'm just saying this the stats, but I'm just could be wrong. But let's say they're similar, right? And in popular belief, I think like people think all men cheat, right? So with that being said, though, is if you're a female and you found yourself cheating on the last few partners, and then I come to you and they want to get exclusive, and you do like a mental inventory, you see the why, and then your therapist hat is like, dang, this needs like 5 years of like intensive therapy, maybe psychotherapy, and then but she's ready to date and she's a chronic cheater. What do you do there?
Okay, so you said the key thing. So even though I'm a former therapist, I don't do therapy, I do
Yeah.
coaching. So if I
Correct.
really
Correct.
see, so if I see there is something like that needs to be really addressed through therapy, I refer them out.
Got
And
it.
I will tell them, I don't feel you're ready to date. I think that you should really work on this particular issue to get
Got it.
past it.
Got it.
Yeah,
Now,
I'm not
okay.
going to send them out. Yeah.
Now you're the person, right? Who you're a good person, but you found yourself cheating. What is typically the reason for that? Aside for maybe some of the internal challenges you have, is it lack of communication? Is it, lack of transparency? What are usually some of those challenges typically?
It's typically lack of emotional intimacy.
Okay. Interesting.
Women, and I'll share this with your audience
Yeah,
that,
please.
if a man is looking to have exciting, long lasting, vibrant sex with their partner, become emotionally intimate with them.
Yeah.
Not intimacy starts outside of the bedroom. So
Oh,
if a
wow.
woman trusts you, if a woman cares for you, if a woman wants to be with you long term, and have vibrant, wild sex, connect with them intimately.
Wow. That's amazing.
Connect
That's
with them
amazing. And it's
intimately.
true. And it's true.
Yeah. And
So,
remember, intimacy starts outside of the bedroom, not in the bedroom.
okay. So love it. Okay. So going along the spectrum, right? And if I had, there was many reasons to have you on, but if there's one reason that I'm fascinated with is once you break up with said person, whether they contact you and they're broken up, raw for a relationship, or they just broke up with the relationship, you read a lot about the no contact zone or timing, etc. And I had a breakup. We got back together, but like all the coaches were like, you need no contact, you need no contact, you need no contact. And I was like, "Arr." So what do we say to those guys and gals that are in a breakup that know they shouldn't contact their ex and they're like the phone is like right here? What's the benefit of no contact breakup? And what first give us what's the rationale behind the no contact, and then what results should it yield if it's followed? And if you
Okay.
subscribe to it, I'm just assuming you subscribe to it.
Oh, I absolutely. Oh my gosh. Can I tell you? Absolutely. I subscribe to that.
Okay. So
100%.
so give us the background to it, and then how
Sure.
women
Out of
should be.
sight, out of mind. Out of
Yeah.
sight, out of mind. If there's if you initiated the breakup, there's a reason. If they've initiated a breakup, there's a reason.
Yeah.
If that person feels that you're not right for them, not healthy for them, and vice versa, you're not going to keep them in that space. They're going to occupy a space in your brain
Yeah.
where you're not going to be able to heal, where you're not going to be able to move forward. So
But here's the
go
thing
ahead.
though. I've read and watched on YouTube, I know a little too
Mhm.
much about this, that the no contact strategy should also be employed if you want to get them back.
Oh,
That's
there's a
BS.
lot of, yeah, there's a lot of
Don't worry, it's not a
self-proclaimed,
kid's show. Trust me.
no. There's a lot of self-proclaimed coaches out
Yeah.
there who go on YouTube, and
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of social media presence. I try to,
Yeah.
but you want to know why I'm not? Because I'm actually working. I'm actually
Yeah.
working with clients from
Yeah.
9 to 5.
Yeah.
So my social media presence isn't as robust because I'm actually working with clients. So let me explain to you. There's either way, you don't want to play games, right? You want to try and address, if you play games within your intimate romantic relationships,
Yeah.
how is that going to what kind of foundation is that going to lay?
Good point. Good point.
Right? So I'm all about being honest, being transparent, being real, communicating effectively. I also practice that in my 30-year marriage
Yeah.
to my best friend and love of
Yeah.
my life.
Yeah.
So not only do I do the work, I walk the walk.
Okay. So
Okay.
the no contact, in your opinion, is if you broke up for a reason. You might
Yep.
you might do an assessment, and then if you were the person maybe breaking up, either maybe some chance you may be like, well, wait a second, that you'll take an inventory, right? And then if your recommendation, and I doubt you give a hard recommendation because it's you're a therapist, but let's just say you're leaning towards, hey, you shouldn't really engage right now, right? That's your decision or recommendation, right? And that makes perfect sense, right? But then, is a little stalking on social media okay? Like give us the,
No,
you know,
because I think it's unhealthy for you. When
yeah,
I work with a client who comes to me because I do breakup recovery,
yeah.
and if they've suffered a severe breakup or a painful breakup, I say cut all ties. Delete their number. I have a video called "Delete Their Number." Delete their number.
I used to do that. That's actually a psychological, like, you wish things would come to you. You can also wish things away. And I think that's the first step.
Yeah, and you want to, you don't want them right in front of you. You want to
Correct.
get them out of sight, out of mind.
Correct.
Make sure that you're clearing the path so you can heal. You're going to engage in some self-care. You're going to then, do something for yourself that makes you feel good, connect with your old friends. A lot of times we
Yeah.
lose connections with people because we're so immersed in a relationship. And then over time you can make room to date someone else who's a better fit for you. They're your ex for a reason.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. Okay. So let's go continue along the spectrum, right? So I
Yep.
engage you, I'm in a relationship or starting a relationship. And I obviously, now I think a big mistake would be to disengage, right? I should probably stay with you for a while or leave it in some fashion, because my concern would be is to disengage you once you're in a relationship. Do most people stay on, they're smart about it, or do they disengage maybe a little too early?
No, most people stay on. So my program's 6 months long, and
Okay.
what typically how it typically, not every time, I don't want to try
Yeah.
and say, but typically what happens is it starts out as date coaching. I get them online, I get them dating. They typically meet someone, and then they stay on for some relationship coaching.
Yeah.
So we kind of look at, is this person the right person for them? And then sometimes people stay on a little longer if they don't meet someone, as early in the process as someone else. And then it takes a little longer, or they do meet someone, but they want that support a while longer.
Wow. Okay. So, so again, you start to date somebody, you start cooking and that kind of stuff. What are some of the earlier red flags or non-negotiables? I know like it could fall under morality and everybody may be different, but what are some of the red flags in your experience that are just like run the other way earlier on?
Sure, if they come on like hot and heavy gangbusters.
Yeah.
See, and for women, unfortunately, we've been educated to believe that there has to be skyrockets and fireworks, and it has to be hot and heavy, and he has to like profess his love for you, and he has to come
Yeah.
in on a white horse. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Or they're like, I have to have the alpha male, the guy who comes in and commands the room. And I'm always like, really? Because
Yeah.
that room becomes all about him, and there's no air for you at all. So those are the things that I typically say. You really have to watch someone's behavior. It's different for every person and every person's experience. So if someone doesn't, court you appropriately, or doesn't make you a priority as you start to move through the dating process,
Yeah.
then we know it's really, I always tell people, look for the behavior. Do they disappear? Do they flake on you? Are they not, showing up regularly? Like, these are the simple things that we need to look at. Say you start to be exclusive, you're dating regularly 3 times a week, you start to talk about, not dating anyone else.
Yeah.
But if you're a secret and they haven't introduced you to their family or the
Yeah.
significant people in their life, then
Yeah.
like, they're not serious about you.
Good point.
You're a secret. Yeah, I've seen it all.
Now what about the dynamic, like younger people, right? Because like I said, like I'm guessing hopefully younger people see the value as well, right? But younger people, it's like sex on demand. Like it's just like, yeah, I get it on a
So
Snapchat
actually,
or Instagram,
yeah.
and it's like boom, it could show up. So like, what's the dynamic do you recommend for younger people listening or watching that want a
So
relationship, but it's so easy to get what you want?
yeah, so I do think women and men have to have boundaries, right? I'm gonna really put that more on women.
Yeah.
You have to have your boundaries. Just because you find him really, really handsome doesn't mean that, you have to have sex with him, and it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that the sex is gonna keep him.
Correct. Good point. Good point. Now, we're also in a very different environment, and not in a bad way. But one thing that I was always fearful of, and I grew up in a house with three women and my mom. We didn't have a father in the home when I grew up, and so I consider myself to be very female centric. I
Yeah, I
wouldn't
was going to
want.
say you have an advantage.
Yeah, wouldn't want. I always say like I had the secret cookbook, which helped me in life. But with that said, though, is like I was very cognizant and super scared of if I got intimate, like even consensual, even if whether drunk or not, like I was always worried about, because like the last few years it is very focused on the Me Too era, and I felt like there were some cases where it appeared to be consensual, and then the person just regretted it the next day. So like for the gentleman that you coach, and for the gentleman listening that maybe around my age, what are some of those tips in this era? Now, you don't want to. There's an old
Yeah.
Dave Chappelle. It's interesting enough, and it was way before Me Too. There was an old Dave Chappelle skit where he's like, sign here, like, and like almost like, do all these different things, almost like lawyerish before we get intimate. Now that may be a little extreme, but and there's an app even you can click, like, hey, I click, you click, and we get the business. I think it's a little extreme. I don't know if I would subscribe to that, but what tips do you have for guys nowadays in this new environment?
Just pace yourself.
Yeah.
Get to know her.
Yeah.
If she's cray, you'll know she's cray. You know what I mean? And no, seriously, like
Yeah.
if you're really adhering to like being
Yeah.
a gentleman,
Yeah.
right? You're getting to know her, you're courting her,
Yeah.
but you're not quite sure about her behavior. And then
Yeah.
you're like going to go for intimacy. These are things that I'll share with you. I have a personal, outside my family
No.
situation that
Got
happened.
it.
Young
Got it.
man was dating someone, and then she turned around and used Title IX on him and blah blah blah.
Oh, wow.
But in retrospect, it was very clear that mentally she wasn't healthy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
really look at someone's behavior. You may be really attracted to her and you want to take her to bed, but look at her behavior. Is she someone who is
Yeah.
mentally healthy? And
Yeah.
is she on the same, I don't want to, get backlash from women, but because I don't.
Yeah.
But also you do need to hear her. If she's saying no to you, she means no.
No, of course. So that's a whole
Yeah.
different ball of wax. Now,
Yeah.
one thing also is in terms of relationships and stuff nowadays is how do I say this? You're dating, and like we're kind of going through the transition. Now you're in a relationship. I think they cited Facebook as like the number 2 reason for divorce. So, one of the challenges, what happened was when I got back with an ex, and we now have a baby, we have a house, we're fiancé, and I'm happy I did it. Long story, but like I was happy in that sense that we got together. But social, and we decided for a while, like for business, we stayed on social media, but for personal, we got off social media, not because I wanted to cheat or she wanted to cheat. It's just social media, the whole, hey, from the ex from 2 years ago, or somebody you messed with, or now they're single. It's just a distraction, like don't get me wrong. Like I keep my professional one and I sprinkle some personal stuff on there, but I have less than an appetite for it. Personally, I can only speak for myself, and we do social media for business. So what should be the social media strategy for somebody who is now in a committed relationship? They're happy. There's no risk of cheating. However, they might want to stay away from the temptation, or they might want to just be like respectful, and where does social media fit into the new dynamic of a healthy relationship?
Yeah, to your point, I agree with you. I'm usually at the beginning of the relationship, get them settled. So I think again that goes back to transparency, communication, honesty, authenticity. If you can, my husband and I are on Facebook together, and not as a couple, but separately. Again, business, personal.
Yeah.
We share the same amount of friends. Like, we know just about everybody. There's crossover. I just think you have to really be honest. Think about really, I think my big question, putting my coach's hat on, is why are you in the relationship you're in?
Yeah, good point. Why do we stay in those relationships? Like, for example, there was one that a friend caught her boyfriend being on like 3 dating apps, and not only like was he on the dating apps, he was and I'm not saying any of it's right. I think any of it's a deal breaker, but I think there's a difference of like, oh, let me check out these apps. let me dip my toe in the pond. I'm not saying it's right, but versus going on, putting a profile and like swiping right and left, like meaning she caught him on 3 apps and they broke up and now she's since found love. But my point being is, like, what do you do when you catch a super serious relationship and you catch maybe some, how do I say this? Maybe lesser charges. I'm not saying that's okay. That's a deal breaker. But what about if you catch somebody with the intent to cheat, or maybe emotionally cheating, or doing stuff like not physically yet, or you don't prove a physical, but they do kind of the ancillary stuffs around it, and you're in a super serious relationship? What do you do in that situation, in your opinion?
So you said something really great. She went on and met somebody else and now is in love with them.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Would
So
you
that's the
stay in a
answer.
relationship with someone who you found
Yeah,
tootling around on
yeah.
dating sites?
I'm a little old school. I believe in like there's like deal breakers, and it's a very simple thought and rule. If you, it's not even a rule. It's just it is a rule actually. Don't do anything that you would feel uncomfortable about me doing. That's it.
Mhm.
That's it. If you would, if you don't want me Facebook and my ex, replying to my ex, um, I tend to date somebody, which is a good thing, a little on the stricter side, so I don't follow anybody needlessly. And to be honest with you, but the lines are clear. Like it's not like, hey, she's crazy. The lines are clear. Like, hey, here's the cost. Here's the cost of freight in this relationship, and then I either got to be willing to accept it or not. And there are healthy boundaries, and I respect that. Because I think it's a slippery slope. I do believe in. Let me ask you this, actually. I do believe in the slippery slope theory of the, hey, it's okay that you follow your ex. And then it's like, hey, it's okay, that you have message. Oh, go for that one coffee. You probably heard it all, right? But give us some red flags in terms of slippery slope stuff to look out for, where you can nip it in the bud through communication, lay the expectation. So if it's done, even though in itself is not bad, it's a slippery slope. And I don't know if I asked that and say that correctly, but you get what I'm
Well,
saying, right?
I think I do, but I think you said what was definitive for you. Like,
Yeah.
you have to discuss what makes you feel uncomfortable,
Yeah.
what you wouldn't want done to you, you're not going to
Yeah.
do to your partner. And you have to have that clarity. There's a lot of things that couples don't talk about, things that make them feel uncomfortable in
Yeah.
terms of intimacy in a
Yeah.
relationship and what their expectations are and boundaries. They don't talk about money and finances. Like, these are the things that you should be talking about long
Yeah.
term,
Yeah. I love
because
it.
it should be open and honest. You want that emotional intimacy that goes along with physical intimacy, and it just really helps lay the foundation going forward.
Love it. Now, you happen to be based out of New Jersey, but you're online. We can coach pretty much anywhere in
Yeah,
the world, correct?
I do. Yeah, yeah. And I
All right.
do. I haven't, I'll be honest with you, I haven't coached anybody overseas. It's
Yeah.
all been, all over the United States.
Now, we're going to conclude soon, but what were some of the challenges arise from the pandemic in terms of relationships?
Oh, okay. Just because people couldn't see face to face, and I think so I'm of the belief, and I hear this all the time from clients where I'm working with them, and they'll either have an email exchange or a phone call or even a Zoom, and like, I didn't feel the connection. And I always have to be like, you won't feel the connection
Yeah.
until you sit across from that person.
Yeah.
There I've had so many clients say, oh, I didn't feel a connection, and then they went on the date anyway, and then things really took off for them and they found a partner who they actually connect with.
Nice.
My claim to fame is that over the 16 years of using online dating, I pulled 10 husbands and partners out of the trash on the sites,
I
because
love it.
I have the password and sign on, and I go on with my clients and I help them navigate online. And I have pulled husbands and long-term partners out of the trash going, why did you delete this person? You had no right to delete this person.
So I have one last question before we conclude.
Yes,
What
absolutely.
about and I'm listen again, just being transparent. I myself, and I could listen, just being transparent, right?
Yeah.
It's aesthetics are important to me. Although I'm like, well, I gained 100 pounds last year, but to me, aesthetics is
Everyone did.
aesthetics is important, right? So am I shallow? Are we shallow? If like, hey, Julieanne, I really like her. She's great. A, B, C, like she checks off all the boxes, but she just doesn't do it for me. Is that shallow? Should I give her a chance? Like, what? Walk me through where physical
So
comes in.
in what it like you're online, you talk with someone online,
Yeah.
then you meet them,
Yeah.
and there's just no chemistry.
Yes. No physical spark.
Then you move on. You have to have chemistry,
Yeah.
right? Does it have to be, again, the fireworks and the skyrockets? I don't believe in that.
Correct.
And I
Correct.
have seen chemistry grow.
Yeah.
So I will tell you, so let me back it up a little bit.
Please.
Go on a second and third date. Go
Just
on a
to see.
fourth date.
Yeah.
If you're on a fourth date and you're like, I really like this person, but there's just no chemistry, then you can't. Someone may show up to a first date and may be awkward, it may be uncomfortable, they may be feeling bad about themselves or what have you. By the third date, they start feeling comfortable with you and their true essence show. And then you're like, oh my God, she's so cute.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I really like her.
Love
So
it.
give it a chance.
Love it. All right. So Juliana, I'm going to put Julianne, I'm going to put a link to your website below, but for those
Yes,
that are
please.
listening and maybe driving in the car, how can we find you?
You can find me at Julieannecantarella.com. Follow me on Instagram at Julieanne Cantarella Pro Love Coach.
Love it.
And I'm on Facebook, Julieanne Cantarella Professional Love Coach. And you connect with me on LinkedIn and Twitter. I'm everywhere.
Love it. And thank you for putting up with my crazy questions. I just had a lot of them. I was introduced to you through my sister, so super excited that I got to chat with you, and check out Julianne. And again, so I think what I learned here also is, if you're not in a relationship, you could prep people. And then two, even if you're in a relationship, it doesn't hurt to check in or get some advice. Do you do ad hoc stuff, or let's say somebody wants to check in with you? You do. I like that.
Yeah, I do. It's called a pick my brain session. They can come
sweet.
and work with me, one time or what have you. So this is my passion and purpose in life. So I love it. I love helping people create healthy relationships.
I love it. So check her out, Julieannecantarella.com. I'll put the link below. Thank you for being on the New Theory podcast.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.